So there's this new mode in Runeterra called Lab of Legends. Basically, it plays in a dungeon crawler deck builder style, similar to Slay the Spire or Hearthstone's popular dungeon run format. You pick a starter deck and battle through 9 progressively harder AI opponents without healing in between. The kicker is, you get to add new cards and passive abilities to your deck after each, so you'll end up with some very unique and crazy combos that are different every time. The labs are pretty easy on their own due to the crazy range of combinations available, so I decided to do something a bit more challenging. I decided to see, is it possible to beat the Lab of Legends without attacking a single time? Needless to say, this is going to be a pretty insane challenge. There's going to be some major hurdles, and even getting past the first fight is going to be a challenge. We'll need a mix of non-combat damage, survivability, and some luck to go with it. Without the ability to attack, many keywords such as Quick Attack, Scout, and Challenger become utterly useless, while some more defensive cards and strategies actually suddenly become a lot more viable. With a mashup of different deck styles being used by our opponents here, we're gonna need to figure out some pretty creative solutions to be able to stand a chance of getting to and bringing down the final boss, Viktor. This is actually my first time playing the new labs all the way through, so it'll be fun learning what kinds of threats and challenges we'll be facing, and in turn what kinds of strategies we're gonna have to develop. Choosing the right starter deck here is crucial because we need to be able to deal at least 10 damage to the Nexus without attacking to get through the first fight. Keep in mind, we're going to be adding cards to our deck that can help us deal more Nexus damage, but before the first fight, we can't add any. So we're going to have to start with Heimerdinger's deck, which already has Chump Wump as a 2 of and Mystic Shot as a 2 of. That's going to give us access to mushrooms, as well as the Mystic Shot's face damage, which will allow us to at least beat the first enemy. Now, we do get to pick our first passive before the fight, and we're going to go ahead and try taking the common passive Immortality. It heals our Nexus for 10 health at the start of each game, which will actually be really useful here. Killing the enemies with shrooms is going to be very slow. We will take some damage, I think, and we will need to be able to heal back up so that we won't just run out of health in the process. And with that, the run officially begins. Our first opponent here is spiders. They go wide with small units to try to overwhelm us with tribal spider buffs. We full mulligan for chump wumps to try to get the AI drawing mushrooms as quickly as possible. Alright, so we need to do 6 damage worth of mushrooms. It's gonna be hard. Since we can't attack with our units, we're just gonna use them to block down our opponent's board to save as much health as possible, to stall until he draws the mushrooms. Seems solid, and here, I realize something else. Flash of Brilliance actually could get us something that does Nexus damage too. Ooh, that's pretty good for him. So with Flash of Brilliance, we can actually get a card that will increase our total Nexus damage output. True Shot Barrage can give us a source of 3 precious Nexus damage, as well as dealing with a couple of attackers. Really useful because we're just gonna need to be putting up a wall the entire time. But when he grasped us, I remembered that some of these AI might actually have healing, and that could actually be a really big issue. Remember, our deck has a completely finite amount of Nexus damage built into it, and I already need to be able to draft more to deal with enemies that have more HP. But here, at the very least, we managed to keep our Heimerdinger alive on board, hoping to stall out the game a little bit longer with its turrets every turn to block. The opponent's almost dead here. All we need for him to do is draw just 1 more mushroom. I love the idea of just challenge modes in this labs. This is a really fun labs, and it's just like the perfect environment to just try to do stupid challenge rolls. Please mushroom. Oh my god. No mushroom here, and I'm a little worried about the size of our deck getting smaller and smaller. Thankfully, at this point in time, chat informs me that Riot actually made it so that neither player can deck out in this labs mode. Unfortunately, that means we won't be able to use a mill strategy to win, but hey, at least we can stall for as long as we have the Heimer blockers. The rest of the fight here should be pretty simple. We're gonna block as much damage as we can to keep our health high and wait for them to draw the mushrooms we need. Oh, we got the 2. Okay, so we're at 14 health, and we'll heal back up to 24. A little messy, but not too bad for our first try. Since we won a round, we get to upgrade our deck, in this case with a support champion. It's between the Ash package with Brittle Steel and Ramtusk Shaman, or Elise with Vile Feast and Brood Awakening. Even though Elise and Ash are good at champions, both of them have abilities completely contingent on attacking, which we can't do. I'm going to choose Shaman and Brittle because of their defensive capabilities and move on to round 2. So we get into second round, Mist Wraiths, an aggressive deck using fearsome units to try to beat down our health total. This time, I'm going to prioritize defense and aggressively mulligan for Heimerdinger so we can get some free blockers online ASAP. Wow, he floated turn 3. That's amazing. Is the AI coded to take passes like that? I've seen that happen before. Wow, that's exploitable. That's so exploitable. We can force the AI to pass sometimes. There's no way. He had the Mist Wraith in hand. We knew he had the Mist Wraith in hand. So something about that situation forced him to pass there. And whatever it is, we can exploit it. This is actually pretty big. Learning about how the AI works is going to be a huge game changer in these kinds of challenges, since we can manipulate them into making weaker plays that benefit us. My hypothesis here is that if we pass with the attack token, the AI might just be coded to pass back, thinking that it's burning our mana, when in reality, we're just tricking it into locking itself out of a play. This would be especially useful because we can't attack anyway. We're stabilizing with Heimer, okay? With Heimer down to stabilize, I feel good. The plan is to win with pure mushroom power, using our Mystic Shots defensively to kill the Mist Wraiths and save health for the next fight. I'm not sure how much healing his deck has, and I'm hoping our finite amount of damage should be enough to get us through. Turn 6, we're going to play Progress Day to hopefully draw the Chump Wumps from our deck, and generate the 8/8 T-Hex as a great fearsome blocker here. So if I pass here, I'm pretty sure he's coded to pass back and burn the token. And burn his mana, which is a bigger deal than me losing 1 turn on the mushrooms. So I'm gonna open pass and see if we can exploit that. Yes, we got him. So I think they might literally always pass when you do. There might be some exceptions. The rest of the game proves pretty simple by utilizing our Heimerdinger to block his fearsome units, stalling the game as our mushrooms do the rest of the work for us. 7! All right, we're good. Man, I think I definitely underestimated Heimerdinger in round 1. Him generating blockers keeps us so healthy, so in the future, we should make sure to have him down as soon as possible. We've got 24 HP at the end of this match, which means we're going into the first boss at full health. These item choices, though, are utter garbage. I guess we're gonna take the pickaxe because it'll allow Heimerdinger to block fearsomes. The one nice thing, though, is that choosing another Heimerdinger shuffles an extra copy into our deck, which will allow us to have more opportunity to draw him. And we're actually happy to pick up Braum here. That'll help us stabilize on turn 4, because we've kind of identified we don't really need to rush Chump Wump down as soon as possible. We need the defensive wall up first. And with that, we can move on to the first boss fight of our run here. The fight against Thresh. Thresh is the first of 3 bosses in this run. Now, something I haven't mentioned up until this point, because it honestly didn't matter until now, is that each of the different opponents in Labs has a different unique power. For the first 2 matches, their powers don't really change anything, but they will from now on, and Thresh's power is that he starts with a Vaults of Helia right at the start of a game. And that, honestly, is pretty terrifying. Vaults of Helia is known to be a pretty weak card in, ranked constructed, but when you get it for 0 mana at the very start of the game, it's going to put a lot of pressure on. Here's the bigger problem. We can't attack, right? Normally, we're supposed to counter this just by aggroing him down, but since we can't attack, we have got to play the late game. This Vaults is going to snowball a ton of value, and this is the first fight that's really majorly concerning because of that. The upside, though, is that when you kill a boss, you go back to full health, even without this immortality perk, which means we will be healed for full, so we can use our health as a resource and let us get down lower without worrying too much. The first few turns of this fight are just spent trying to remove his units to stop the vault triggers, and then we can ideally play Heimerdinger on 5 to block him from beating us down. Do we play for the aggro game plan and just go to Shroom really early? Or do we try to do this do we try to do this thing of just like stabilizing with Heimer or Rhymetask or whatever, or Braum like we have in other matchups? Because the first 2 is just stabilize and you win. Now that we've got Heimer down and generating some blockers, I'm actually a lot more confident about this fight, or at least I would be if the Thresh wasn't killing my Heimerdinger here. That might have been a misplay on my part. I probably should have played the Rhymetask Shaman there to see if he misplayed by dragging it instead. I actually don't know how they prioritize targeting like that. Just another thing to learn about how these AI operate so that we can, more efficiently play out these games. But Heimer goes down here for the first time. putting the Yeti Yearlings in his deck. The Yeti Yearlings don't have puff caps on them. So putting the Yearlings in his deck slows down the puff cap and might allow this game to go one turn later. So I can't kill the Yearling. Here, Thresh levels up, shuffling 3 random champs into his deck. He can pull one of the champions out with Thresh on his next attack, and none of his shuffled cards have any mushrooms on them. Bummer. Hopefully he draws enough mushrooms that we can kill him before he gets his next attack off, because while I said we're not going to be looking to kill too fast, the pressure's really on just because of the Vaults of Helia. Luckily for me though, the rest of the game isn't too bad. He gets another attack off, we block it down, rinse and repeat until he draws the mushrooms. In this case, not a lot that's going to be threatening to kill us through the blockers. Okay, it's easy. First attempt Thresh, and that wasn't even hard. We did some misplays, but I think like there's not, if you do it right and if you have the right mentality, it's really not that hard to beat Thresh. I'm feeling really good at this point. Thresh was a little worrisome at the start, but we got through it with relative ease, which was surprising. A lot of you guys were saying Thresh would be, you know, where the first run ended. And of course, as I'm saying this, I'm realizing that this really is just the start. Because for stage 2, with the AI opponents having 20 Nexus health each, things are about to get a whole lot harder. So, with Thresh dealt with, I think Sorcery ends up being the best pick here. With the extra spell mana we're going to be getting for free, we can play more spells with Heimerdinger to generate the blockers and fulfill the defensive part of our strategy. This next pick though isn't great. None of these 3 are going to help us too much, but I guess Sharpened Resolve is the best of them. Really wishing there was a skip button right around now because I would decline this offer on all of them. I really need to be drawing my important cards without diluting my pool. So, as mentioned, Freljord AI have 20 HP each. That's not too bad. It's technically doable because as long as we've got a defensive wall up, we do have enough damage, just enough mushrooms for 20. But when we get to PNZ with 30 health, we're gonna need to have drafted more damage by then. Otherwise, we will literally be unable to win. This first match here against Hunters in Freljord has a special ability that gives our weakest unit vulnerable at the start of each round, so we've got to be wary of that. Maybe try to keep something weak so that Heimerdinger doesn't get dragged for free. Now, we've got a long game ahead of us here. Not being able to play something to block these early minions is really hurting us here. I Mystic Shot the Icefield Archer to save us the 3 HP, but we need to start generating blockers. With how long this game will take to get us through the 20 HP, we need to prioritize defense if we're going to get through all 3 games in this region. I'm also quickly realizing that since we only have 24 max damage, 22 now that I've Mystic Shotted a unit here, this game is pretty much going to go until the AI draws their entire deck, because we need all of the mushrooms to be drawn. So against other similar enemies, I'm going to need to be mulliganing away my chump lumps. There's no reason to play or draw them earlier. Oh, this is so good. Oh, Sharpened Resolve. Thank God we put this in. Woo! Jesus, that would have been so bad. We would have lost on the spot without Sharpened Resolve here. Holy shit. So, yeah, at this moment, I'm really glad there isn't a skip option button because we needed that Sharpened Resolve so much. I think we got this, guys. We're stalling 20 turns here. We're playing control. What is he, like, he doesn't have, like, blowout or anything. What if they have some healing in their deck? At 20 health, if they have healing in their deck, I will wait until the last card in their deck and use all 4 mushrooms, and they will take 20 damage. I'm thinking about playing Heimerdinger into Thermo, but I'm too worried about the Wolf challenging Heimer here. Instead, we take advantage of some poor decision making in the AI's programming by playing the 4-3 Chumpwump, saving the Rhymefang. This working is important info as we now know it's prioritizing stats over mana cost of the unit it's killing. And sticking in there, keeping our Heimerdinger on the board, the opponent ends up being on a 1-card hand. We've got plenty of resources. It's pretty much a 1 game. I don't know if we can lose anymore. The AI has some Alpha Wad's claws, but as long as we never pass on our attacking turns, we can bait him into playing them on defense so they get hit by the Rhyme Tusk freezes at the start of the round before the attack. So it's actually really important that we don't let him play the Wild's Claws after his attack turn starts. And by being careful about that, it ends up being not that hard. Round 4 is done, and we get to choose another reinforcements. This one's a little unique. We get to select a card plus an item to add 2 copies of it to the deck. Here, I'm going to be picking up the 2 troll gifts that draw us a card, granting regen on something is nice, or having a cheap way to buff our Braum. Plus, more importantly, cycling a card for 2 mana at burst speed is just valuable. We can use it to generate turrets from Heimer. The second choice, though, adds an item to one of our existing cards while shuffling in an extra copy. This one's actually a lot tougher. Academy Prodigy is really good for saving us the health in the early game, and an extra Heimerdinger is really important here by preventing our lose condition of not having him on turn 5, but the Mystic Shot as a third option, increasing our total maximum face damage, this is a really hard one. This is probably the hardest decision point I've made because I can see all 3 of these. Specifically, with drafting and deck building, we have to be thinking about problem solving. That's the most important mentality. And our lose condition. Academy Prodigy helps the lose condition of aggro, Heimerdinger helps the lose condition of just not drawing Heimer, and Mystic Shot helps the lose condition of just not having enough face damage. And I'm so ungodly terrified of getting to PNZ and running out of damage and just being stuck in an infinite loop of not closing out the game. I end up taking the Mystic Shot here just because there's a chance it'll give us the last bit of damage we need. Then round 5 starts. Our opponent here starts with a copy of Scargrounds on the field as their special ability. Despite everything I've said about how important Heimer is to have on turn 5, for this matchup, I'm going to mulligan early for defensive tools instead, because I'm really afraid of their super aggression. We need to go as high HP as we can off of these games. So we've got to be extremely careful with a Thermo Beam in this matchup. I really want to use it on the 3-1 Tough or the Stefan Skellen early, but even if Stefan grows, we can just chump block it down. I need to be extremely scared of these big growing Overwhelm units. Thermo Beam is too powerful of a get out of jail free card to save on something larger and scarier. I tried the open passing trick to see if I can trick the AI into passing back, but it seems like they're hard-coded to play the Ember Maiden here. We're in a tough spot here, and have to make a decision on whether or not to thermo the Scar Mother or the Ember Maiden. I have to use it on the Ember Maiden, as, I mean, with Rime Tusk, we can at least lock down the Scar Mother, but Ember Maiden, if we don't get rid of it, is just buffing the entire board, damaging us every turn. I can't let that stay on the board. That's actually not a bad draw. I'm actually not minding this Sharpened Resolve. I thought it was the biggest grief ever. Sharpened Resolve is actually fitting really well into this deck, and it's a super nice tool to have in our hand right this moment again. Pledge. Whoa, Pledge is kind of nuts there. Okay, that's fine. We've got Thermo Beam. We're good. That Bloodsworn Pledge was actually just a crazy swing here. This opponent, round 5, is shaping up to be super scary. We're gonna have to stabilize really quickly if we plan to last until they draw every card. Because again, these kinds of matches, we're supposed to aggro them down, but unless we can run them out of steam, our game plan, our challenge is forced into surviving the entire 20 turns. I used the Thermo on the Tarkaz to stop the AoE ping each attack, which I probably should have done earlier, thinking back on it. I'm also realizing that with Rime Tusk Shaman, Ash will actually level up pretty consistently during this challenge, even though she can't attack, meaning we're gonna get free crystal arrows. A very big deal. Stefan has actually grown bigger than Scar Mother at this point, which means our Rime Tusk freeze will no longer be hitting the scary Overwhelm unit. We actually have to try to damage Scar Mother now to get her bigger than Stefan so that the Rime Tusk will freeze her instead, because Stefan we can chump block. But at this point, I kind of have no idea how I'm going to survive the rest of this game. Whoo, harsh winds! That's so good! And Flash of Brilliance clutches and pulls us a Harsh Winds. Possibly the best card it could have generated for us here. We're completely back again into the game with this. Oh my god. Are you kidding me? Dude, Bloodsworn Pledge is so good for this. Yet another Bloodsworn Pledge blows us out, but at least we keep our Braum. Scar Mother's attack is now higher than Stefan's, perfect, so Rime Tusk will start to freeze her again, which is great. The Overwhelm is the bigger problem we can't deal with. Most importantly, we've got our second Shaman to play. Thank God we drew the Rime Tusk Shaman into our draft this game. This would have been incredibly losable if we didn't have the double Rime Tusk board here. It doesn't kill any of my units. It buffs his in a way that dodges Scar. Rime Tusk Shaman. Man, we got lucky this one, guys. Like, his deck is actually kind of terrifying. If he drew his cards in a better order, I think we would have lost this. Like, he's running Avalanche, he's running Ember Maiden. We didn't necessarily have tools to deal with those. Like, he could have just, like, overwhelmed us. Thankfully, we're continuing to block everything, and we've finally got him down to one card. We've got our combo, and this is it. We are through round 5. That is so satisfying. I'm, however, still not super sure how we're going to deal with the 30 health enemies. We need to figure out something for that because we're only going to have a couple more drafts before we get there, and we can't get stuck in that loop. This next pick is a really bizarre one because even though there's some really strong options, I end up taking something that I'm going to have to explain. I take Sonic Wave. Sonic Wave is something that doesn't look like it's going to do much for this strategy, but after thinking about this pick for a couple minutes, I realized something. Sonic Wave uniquely gives our deck an Ionian card. That doesn't look like it changes much, but because Flash of Brilliance will get us a random card from the regions we have, adding Ionia to our Flash of Brilliance pool will allow Flash to create Ionian cards from 6+ spell cost. That gives us in our pool for Flash of Brilliance, Dragon Kick, which will give us face damage, Dawn and Dusk, which can clone Chumpwoms that will get us enough damage to kill anyone from any amount of health, or it can also get us Singular Will, which will recall Chumpwoms. So 3 different cards, just adding Ionia to the pool, 3 different cards we can get off of Flash that will let us kill any opponent no matter what their health amount is. So it looks like a crazy pick, but we don't have a choice. We need to be able to deal enough damage, otherwise we just can't win. And of course, right after I take the Sonic Wave, we get another Chumpwump anyway for a 3rd Chumpwump, so we will have enough damage even without rolling Flash. This is perfect. So every game at this point just comes down to the ability to survive, which is still going to be a really big problem. And then, next up, it's the second boss fight, round 6. Sejuani's power gives her units +1/+1 permanently. It's not as crazy as some of the others, but the extra stats will be a problem on any Overwhelm units. We gotta go with the full mulligan here, and it ends up being correct. Braum and 2 Troll Gifts is a great set of cards to have early to start blocking down and stabilizing. We're going to play Braum and start setting up the wall with him and Rhyme Tusk. An easy Troll Gifts buff on Braum. This is a really great start here. Thermoing it for 9 looks really good. We have to keep the Rhyme Tusk Crown alive. Yeah, this is perfect. So we're good against Elixir. We're good against Troll Chant. And our Rhyme Tusk stays. This is the easiest boss. Oh, that's okay. We probably didn't need that. We probably needed that. So our open path strategy hasn't been working since Shadow Isles for some reason. The AI might actually be improving and changing the further we get, which is something we should be keeping in mind. The bots are learning. Okay. Oh, yeah, shit. Wait. We can never let him plunder from this Tusk Raider. If we ever let him plunder a Tusk Raider, we lose. So if this Tusk Raider ever gets his buffs off, we probably can't win the game. Again, keep in mind, our entire strategy is contingent on just surviving long enough for the mushrooms to happen. And if one of those doubling everything in the deck happens, we're screwed. For now, we just have to stop any attempts at getting plunder off while the AI has 8 mana available. Since Sonic Wave ends up being kind of bricked here, I'm going to be using it to trade down the Spirit Walker. Now that we've drafted the 3rd Chumpwump immediately, I probably will be kind of regretting this Sonic Wave pick from now on. It could have been a Harsh Winds in the same pack, but just because I couldn't have been sure whether I'd have enough damage, it felt like I was forced into it at the time. But for the rest of this run, I don't expect it to be giving high value. Just attack, oh my god, I just realized I've been forgetting to attack for like the past hour. Well, you're right. Just attack, lol. Our T-Hex unfortunately gets caught in the cold here, but at least our Braum is leveling up. More chumps, and that's all we need for this game plan. We shroom early this time since we've already gotten our shroom OTK, and now that it's just a matter of drawing chump wumps and waiting it out, we block the enemy units in a way that'll get them into brutal steel range. Drawing chump wump is nice since all we've got to do is wait it out. That should be easy enough, right? Alright, this is another boss 1, guys. This is our first attempt. You guys said it would be impossible. Impossible, you said. The rest of this match is going pretty smoothly, just more of the same stuff. Block her guys, wait for her to draw shrooms. Her 2 Ember Maidens speed up our win, and eventually, with a little help from Mystic Shot, one of them finishes her off. Look at that Ember Maiden go. We're finally done with Freljord. It's time to pick our next perk. We're picking up here Evolution, because it's going to give extra stats to Braum and a couple of others. We slap a Phage on Heimerdinger to keep him alive, and he's now finally properly statted for a 5-drop. He's a 5 mana 5/5. And with that, we get into Piltover and Zon, the 3rd area. We're on fight number 7 out of 9 in just our first run. This is actually going super well. Our next fight is Foundry. They start off with Hexcore, and their cards also cost 1 less, which is actually kind of completely terrifying. We're probably going to face some hand size issues ourselves as well, because our hand isn't necessarily cheap on average, but them drawing through their deck faster means more mushroom damage faster, so that might not be so bad. As mentioned though, this 30 HP breakpoint is the scariest thing about this run. We do have enough damage because we've got all 3 chump wumps, but we're still going to need them to draw through basically their entire deck while surviving all of that, and that's not going to be easy. We immediately start to see some problems here as we're taking 7 damage already on turn 2 as the AI plays the used Cask Salesman. We kind of have to just use Thermo right away to save 3 health, and the AI rubs salt on the wound by playing a 0 mana Jury Rig to push more damage. Oh, I got a turn 3 play. Holy shit. That was so scary. We might have literally lost the game on the spot if it wasn't for this shady aeronaut. I get excited to face here, and we're starting to be in some serious trouble. It's turn 4, we're down to 22 HP already. I'm debating whether to play Braum or Chump Wump, and I decide to go with Braum. We pass to him, and he passes back instead of attacking, so we end up burning a card. If that was our last Chump Wump, we would have lost on the spot. We have to be way more careful about that moving forward. I did not realize that burning one of our Chump Wumps would lose us just because PNZ has 30 health, and we can't really rely on the Flash of Brilliances. A Mystic Shot to our face, and we're down to 20 already. This is not going well. If he skips these attacks, if I burn my top deck, if I burn my 3rd chump, I only have 3 chumps. I can't afford to burn a card. Oh, thank God he attacked. What? The most confusing thing I've ever seen. What? Why? I don't... What is he doing? See, guys, this challenge is easy. I honestly have no idea what the bot was doing here. I went into this hoping to figure out how these AI are coded, but I may never know. Honestly, some of these plays are just too confusing. Things progress as normal here until a familiar face enters the opponent's board. Chump Wump. Who knew that our greatest ally here might turn out to be this run's downfall? With only 14 cards left in our deck and drawing 2 cards every turn, we might end up taking all 15 of his puff cap damage. If this game goes on much longer, we'll be entering the fight with next to no HP, if we even make it. I just have to try to kill him fast. Oh, no. Not like this. 5 more mushrooms in our deck, and things are looking real grim. If we draw these, we are the ones losing to mushrooms instead of our opponent. Not going as planned. Luckily, the AI isn't playing the mushroom clouds quite yet for some reason, but as soon as he does, it might be all over. That being said, just as I'm trying to plan out a way to win this game, disaster strikes. He's milling himself. Wait, this is gonna remove puff caps from his deck. We're taking damage here. This is face damage too. Our Heimer's, he's saving himself a lot of puff caps here. He's removing his damage. I don't think there's a way to win here, but I don't think I can win this game anymore unless there's something I'm missing. And that's it. We struggle around for a bit to try to find a solution here, just to make sure there's something, maybe there's something that I'm not seeing at first, but unfortunately there's no way to win anymore. We draw the mushrooms here. We don't have a way to end the game without enough mushrooms in their deck, and we lose. We're going to need to refine our strategy a bit for next run if we can hope to get past this run. This was an insane power spike compared to some of the earlier ones. We're going to be needing to fresh draft a new strategy, keeping this in mind, figuring out a way to deal with their aggressive game plan because they're so damaging so fast. We're going to need a way to survive their mushrooms. We're going to need a way to deal with the fact that they're removing our mushrooms from their deck with Karina. This one is going to be really challenging and might be a bit of a run killer from now on. Nonetheless, our first run went pretty well, surprisingly well, and we've learned a lot from it. I'm determined to win this challenge still, and I've got the knowledge I need now to make it possible. For now, we restart. It's time to mix it up, try a different approach, a different strategy, different perks, a different deck. We're still going to have to use the Heimer deck just to start us off, but we are going to be using additional approaches, adding a bunch of different cards to the deck to get something that works, to get something that's able to get through PNZ. My only concern is that was just the first PNZ opponent. There's still 2 more that I haven't even seen yet. So this, my friends, this is where the run starts to become difficult. You see, at this point in time, I actually thought this run probably wouldn't be that hard. I mean, after all, I just got to, in my first ever attempt at the challenge run, I got to the 7th opponent out of 9, right? The ability to just beat through the first 6 no problem filled me with an air of overconfidence. This, however, left me pretty fast when I realized 2 things. Firstly, that I had been honestly getting pretty good luck in the first time around. We actually got offered very good champions and general cards for this kind of challenge run. And secondly, that each of the 3 fights in the final region PNZ would all be harder than the rest of all of the fights combined. And, you know, it takes me a couple of hours to realize this. What you're watching right now is sped up footage of me beating my head against the wall that is Shadow Isles, struggling to even be able to beat Thresh with most of the options that I'm given, and realizing that I'm gonna have to start re-rolling after spiders if I don't get a good second champion for this strategy. So at this point, at the start of each of these runs, I have to re-roll for up to a minute to try to get the passive that I want to start off the run, and then battle my way through spiders, which can take up to 10 minutes just because of how long this takes with not being able to attack. And then if I don't have a champion that works for this strategy at all, which I've started to realize is most of them, we've gotten really lucky before, I have to just restart and do that process over and over until I can at least start the run. And after many such rerolls, we find a start that looks promising. Taking Immortality again, we find a bundle with Darius, Noxian Guillotine, and City Breaker. City Breaker is perfect for this challenge. Noxian Guillotine will give us really good ways to kill large overwhelm threats too, and even Darius is useful. If we draw 2 of him, the second one will turn into a Decimate. Pretty sweet. So, a pretty easy time beating Mr. 8s again, and we lose to Thresh. Without the ability to control Thresh's game plan and stall out easily at all, he just runs us down, and this City Breaker bundle mostly only has damage cards and can't stall out very well, so we try again. Many rerolls later, and we get a bundle with Ezreal, True Shot Barrage, and Static Shock. This looks promising, since unlike City Breaker, not only can these tools deal damage to face if need be, they can also kill units and help us survive. It'll be pretty hard to level Ezreal in this deck, and we obviously can't generate Mystic Shots by attacking with him, but if we can double draw Ezreal, we can start shuffling infinite Mystic Shots into our deck by using Ezreal's Mystic Shot. We're able to get through the Mr. 8s, no problem, and even though Thresh is a little bit tricky, the defensive tools here do give us the capabilities of surviving that onslaught, and we make it to Freljord, and immediately die to the first Freljord enemy, Hunters, which I'm realizing is actually one of the hardest ones. They put on so much pressure with the Overwhelms, the Alpha Wilds Claws, as well as the ability to kill your Heimerdinger with the Vulnerable, that getting past them is also a nightmare. So we restart. We try switching up our strategy at this point, looking for things that can deal with big Overwhelm units. And Enfeebling Strike seems like a solid option. This is the starter perk that allows us to reduce permanently the attack of units we damage even without killing them. We try it out, but even though it's the perfect counter to the entire Freljord region, we can't even get there anymore, because we end up dying to Shadow Isles since Enfeeble does nothing against their swarmy aggression. Alright, restart. So we decide to try Little Buddies. This is the passive that allows us to generate a free 1-cost Poro every single turn on our board. It's great for having a bunch of blockers. It might save us a bit more health than Immortality, but still doesn't solve our problem of being able to deal with Freljord's big Overwhelm. This run in particular ends up dying pretty early, so we take a break for the night and decide to pick this challenge up back the next day. But I gotta say, things are looking really bad at this point. We've spent an entire day non-stop on this, and except for the first run, we haven't even been able to make it past Hunters, the first Freljord opponent, let alone any of the PNZ opponents. So without much hope for this run, I sign off my stream for the night. We wake up fresh the next day and decide to give Manaflow a try. This perk allows us to start the game with 1 extra mana, and chat tells me there's actually a bit of a typo on it because it's a full mana gem, not an empty one that it gives us. We have to be a little careful not to take too much chip damage, but getting Heimerdinger down on turn 4 lets us start stabilizing much easier. We beat spiders and have to choose between Lux and Karma. Although Lux's Final Sparks are great for removal and face damage, Karma comes with Eye of the Dragon and Health Potion, which are actually amazing for healing, so we can go into every new opponent at full health. But, unlike Lux, Karma doesn't provide any quick way to potentially close out the game, which really concerns me. She can double the mushrooms off of Chump Wump, but to be able to beat the PNZ opponents, we would need to be able to survive until they draw their entire deck even so, which is scary. But with Dragonlings and Health Potions, we finally have a way to heal up without needing to beat a boss, which lets us be a little bit more aggressive on taking the chip damage. Also, because I've chosen Manaflow earlier this run, we're actually going to get to Karma's Enlighten effect 1 turn earlier than normal. For our champion item, we end up putting a Chain Vest on Heimerdinger to protect him from getting challenged during Freljord, as most of Hunter's units have 3 attack actually. We snap up a couple of copies of Gotcha for removal and head into the fight against Thresh. Manaflow letting us play Eye of the Dragon on turn 1 of the game is nuts. This passive is proving itself to be better and better the more we play with it. The fight here isn't too crazy since we have healing and plenty of blockers, and we end up finishing out the game on turn 9 when Karma levels by doubling up an Aftershock to his face. Shadow Isles are down. This gives us access to a second perk, and here we grab an easy Immortality. Even though we've got healing in our deck, these 2 other options are pretty terrible. Next up is a choice between Palm and Aftershock, which is tough. Our entire stall plan is reliant on chump blockers, but those still lose to big overwhelms, which Palm counters. The thing is, we realize that stalling out the game is pretty meaningless if we don't have inevitability, which Aftershock at least gives us. We grab it and move on. Next up is Hunters. We've got Eye landing on turn 1, Nail into Heimer on 4, and Karma on 5, the perfect curve. Things are looking pretty good. Unfortunately, they do Culling Strike the Heimer, but we have more in the deck, so it's okay. We proceed to use stuns to stall out the game, and when the AI plays Alpha Wild's Claw, we just stall it out a little bit and then use a Dragon Kick that we get off of Flash of Brilliance to end the game. Part of the perks of being in Ionia, our Flash of Brilliances just get much better options. So we're through Hunters, and our choice is between Flower Child that draws 1, Emerald Awakener that has a quick attack, and Flash of Brilliance that also draws 1. With Karma being able to clone the spells if she's enlightened, Flash of Brilliance would be drawing 2 cards when playing it in addition to putting the cards in our hand. That would actually be too much since we already have some hand size issues, and if we overdraw and burn top decks, if it's something we need like a Chump Wump, that will lose us the game. So it's kind of funny, but we actually can't take the Flash of Brilliance just because it has the draw card effect, which we don't want here. We end up having to take the Emerald Awakener because it's got lifesteal, which isn't too bad. For our second pick, we've got an easy one, grabbing a third copy of Aftershock and reducing them all down to 2 mana. This will actually allow us to do a lot of burn damage with our Enlightened Karma. Scars goes pretty well too. We get Eye on 1 again, and we slow roll the bot until we finally manage to finish it off with Shrooms, while Immortality takes us back to up to 30 health, easy. Poro Cannon with Spellbinder here, the cost reduction doesn't really do anything for Poro Cannon, so the choices are really between the 3 mana Homecoming or a Shroud of Darkness that summons a Poro, and we go for the Homecoming. This 3 mana Homecoming actually might be able to save us from something. Next option is Health Pot with Spellbinder, 1 mana Academy Prodigy, or making my Amateur Aeronaut a +2/+2, making it a 4/5. The Health Pot is tempting, but I actually think the 1 mana Academy Prodigy will save us more health with the earlier blocking for more mana efficiency, so we grab it and go into the next boss fight, Sejuani. And Sejuani is surprisingly not that hard. She ends up being a bit of a pushover here. She is very similarly built to Scargrounds, not playing much but just a couple of big units, and we just have an easy time stalling out the game and finishing her off with Aftershock. It turns out for this challenge, at the very least, it seems like Hunters is kind of the hardest Freljord opponent, even though it's the first one. So it's at this point, the run's going very well. We've made it all the way here, we've got pretty great cards in our deck, and Karma, especially her support cards, Eye of the Dragon and Health Potion, are looking super good. We're going into P&Z. And again, this is the really hard one. This is the one that trashed us last time we got here, and we've got to be very careful with these picks. Luckily, we pick up Spellslinger to reduce the cost of all of our spells by 1 mana, which should be really nuts here. Next, we get to give either Heimerdinger or Karma the choice of +2 health, Spell Shield, or Fury, and wanting to protect Heimer, we're stuck between +2 health or Spell Shield on him. Spell Shield is great versus big P&Z removal like Thermo Beam, but the +2 health is going to be really useful against units, and we know that this upcoming deck, the one that just beat us last time we made it this far, is an aggro deck. This one's really tough, but chat convinces me into picking the Spell Shield to save Heimer from Thermo Beam, and we move on to Hexcore Foundry. This rematch has me seriously sweating. I'm in way too deep, and if I can't beat the entire run this time, I have to do it all over again. Luckily, it's a good start. We have Eye on turn 1. We stabilize pretty well off of the double Eye of the Dragon, get down Heimerdinger and Mystic to control the board and generate a blocker. We save an Eye of the Dragon with Homecoming, and continue to block the AI down with Dragonlings. Attempt count 42069. Labs without attacking has become the longest running series in Twitch. It's been going on for so long and garnered so much attention that it's gone mainstream. Morning shows are talking about it. There are $1 million bets on the final attempt. Society has become polarized because of it. There were 6 deaths in the last poll between Fury Gang and Spell Shield Supremacy. Twitch poll is still broken. Unfortunately, here the Karma we played to try to stabilize the board dies to an early Get Excited. We have another one, but it's a bit awkward. We could have not played it this early to keep it safe, but at the very least, the Get Excited doesn't go to our face. Our health is standing strong. We've got Aftershock to kill the Foundry if we'd like, but I need to keep it here and double it later with Karma as my only way to get enough damage to win this game. And we sustain with our combination of Eye of the Dragons and Heimer turrets blocking everything, so we're good for several turns. Our health is high enough. But I get a creeping realization that we haven't drawn either of our Chump Wumps yet, and we already lost 1 Karma, so if we can't draw at least 1 Chump Wump before the opponent draws through their entire deck, my mushrooms are going to be completely useless. And even with Karma doubling our spells, we don't have enough damage in our deck without those mushrooms. Oh, we might lose this. We might not have enough damage. I can't let him draw off of the Sump Treasure. I actually can't. Well, I can't Homecoming this. I can't let him get to the bottom of his deck faster. That's how I lose. I just have to let this through. So I'm in a draw race with this bot. I need to get to a Chump Wump before it draws to the bottom of its deck. So what's happening this game? Okay, like I said, the most important thing right now is having enough damage to kill him. We have 1 Karma left, and we can expend all of his resources to protect the other Karma. Yeah, he's decking himself out. So yeah, it's too late for the Chump Wumps here. So, the AI's Karina obliterates the last 5 cards in its deck, and this is completely devastating, again. And that's it. Both me and this bot are stuck in a loop with the same amount of resources. He's no longer drawing, my mushrooms are useless, and I no longer have any way to get more damage than what's in the rest of my deck. Since I can't attack, I can't advance without enough damage to kill his Nexus, and he's at 28 health. A Flash of Brilliance can still get me the damage. I shouldn't have used that first Mystic either. I messed up, I think. We finally draw and play our second Karma, and we can start using our cards to deal damage to face. We have 3 Aftershocks, a Mystic Shot, and that's all doubled with Karma Enlightenment. So that's a total of 22 damage. Not enough. We need to flash into damage here. Dawn and Dusk could get more damage if we save face damage. Yeah, we need to save one source of face damage. But we're also going to need to trade down our own units, which we're going to have a bit of an inability to do here. Like, how do we even clear off our own board? God, that's gonna be the saddest thing ever. If we lose to that. If we lose to not being able to kill our own board. So to make this work, I need to be able to clear off my own board so that a lucky Dawn of Dusk off of a Flash of Brilliance would have the board space to clone my Karma to give me more Karmas so that my multiple Karmas could clone more copies of Aftershocks, pushing enough Nexus damage to win the game. The only problem is I can't attack, and I can't afford to use my Aftershock on one of my own units either. My only play here is to try to get him to attack me here by intentionally overriding my more powerful units like Awakener with weaker cards so that the bot has a higher likelihood of attacking into us. It works. And now that we've gotten the bot to make the room we need on our board, only thing we have left to do is play both flashes and pray. Oh, please give me Dawn of Dusk. Please give me Dawn of Dusk. Dragon Kick or Dawn of Dusk. Please. 2 complete blanks here. It's just this. It's just the last flash. That's it. We got it! We have exact lethal. We have 18 damage. That's it. No way. Oh my god. Holy shit. You guys got me. We are through. Our next decision is between -1 cost on our Flash, Prodigy that draws 1, or the double casted Aftershock. With Karma redoubling that, these Aftershocks should be 1 mana, deal 12 to face for each with an Enlightened Karma on board. Might be the easiest decision of my life. And with that, we're on to P&Z's second fight, Guard Bots. Their power generates a Heimer turret equal to its max mana each round, which is kind of terrifying because we'll never be able to run it out of steam. Stabilization is one of our big problems, so we keep Heimerdinger to play him on turn 4, and they're gonna Thermo an early Eye of the Dragon, but thankfully we can use Homecoming to save it. We choose to play Chump Womp a bit early here to generate a couple of spells to use with Heimer, since our hand isn't really good for playing Heimer otherwise. The spell shield, though, that we picked up for Heimerdinger is paying off here, as the AI plays True Shot on him to try to remove him, basically just completely disregarding the spell shield. Next, he'll try to use a Thermo Beam to kill our Heimer, but we use Homecoming to save it and play it again. It also gets a new spell shield because we're replaying it, which is amazing. This Homecoming card has actually been putting work in this run. And now, with our Chump Blocker engines at work, it's just a waiting game until we draw Karma, which we eventually do. The AI Static Shock here kills both of the Dragonlings, leaves us with no Chump Blockers, and we're gonna have to play our Give It All that we got off of Flash of Brilliance just to generate a turret. And because of how chunky our board ends up being, AI doesn't even take attacks into us. Even though it has a ton of really big units, our board is even bigger. Alright, it's time to find out. Oh, it's only 3 to face. What a shame. So unfortunately, Karma only doubles the first cast of Aftershock, but 1 mana deal 9 is still great. The AI draws the mushroom and we Mystic Shot its face for the clean win. And yeah, that's it. A surprisingly easy guard bot round. I was expecting much worse. It's possible that the Hexcore Foundry was the real final boss of this run. And before the literal final boss, we get one more draft phase. We're once again offered 2 mana Flash of Brilliance, Emerald Awakener, or a Mystic Shot that summons a random 1-cost Poro. Go for the extra copy of Mystic Shot here to do more face damage, as well as the Poro it summons will be decent at chump blocking. And this is what it's all come down to, the final boss, Viktor. His perk gives his units +1/+1 for each keyword they have. We have the full 30 HP. Let's go. Immediately, this perk shows its value, with Viktor slamming a 2/4 ballistic bot on turn 3. This actually forces us to just double gotcha it, which is okay because we don't have another play and we can refill our hand with Progress Day later. We drop a Heimerdinger on turn 4, and for some reason the AI chooses to play a buffed 2-drop instead of his Viktor. Weird. We get Give It All off of Flash of Brilliance, which is nice, and play our second Heimerdinger for Progress Day as the AI plays Subpercible. But it's only when the second elusive unit comes down that it starts to become actively concerning. So we're forced to use Aeronaut plus Give It All to get a full board of elusive blockers, which is really great. We're also giving Spell Shield as well as Tough. It's an amazing Give It All. The elusives seem to be the only somewhat scary thing about his deck, so as long as I make sure I have value elusive blockers for everything, we should be good to just stall out until we draw our Karma. Here, I start to wonder why the AI hasn't actually played Viktor yet, since that's kind of like supposed to be his deck. And he finally plays Viktor, and we just take a nice clean thermo on it, no problem. And we've got literally everything we could ever want this game other than Karma so far. At this point, yeah, we're just stalling and waiting until we draw her for lethal. We're completely stable here. We've got a full hand, full board, big elusive blocker, and Viktor is even out of resources. The moment we draw Karma, we've got guaranteed lethal, and with our Emerald Awakener healing us up, I might actually be able to win this fight at full HP. Heal TX with health pot? Guys, we're winning this from full health. Heal TX. Guys, stats don't matter. TX doesn't do anything. Everything is just getting chumped out. Like, even if we could attack, stats don't matter. This is Legends of Runeterra. Stats literally do nothing. And this is oh, it's 6, so it's the elusive blocker. You know what? That's actually better than 7. Poor Karma AFK. Wait. We can survive one catastrophe attack, and we can block another with Homecoming. We need to draw Karma in like 2 turns. We can lose to this. Guys, this card costs 1 mana. Like, Homecoming doesn't really slow this down. He can replay it for 1 mana. What? It gives everything Overwhelm if I let it attack first, though? I can't Homecoming it. Am I dead? Am I dead like this turn? He'll play it again. I am desperately trying to run my options here, trying to figure out if we can somehow manage to find lethal in the 2 turns we have before this thing attacks a second time. I mean, how do I win this? Excuse me? What? There's no way to win this. There's no way to win this game. He has 2 Pursuit of Perfections. Without Karma, we just have no chance of beating this. this guy. I don't see a single way out of this, but I've come too far to concede. So I have to just hope that we double up a Progress Day with Karma and draw some kind of out, something that I'm just not seeing. We're gonna double Progress and try to hit lethal. If he does a single develop, there's a chance we're good. We have to override the Heimer. We have to override the Heimer so that we don't overdraw. Okay. I'm now seeing there was a bit of a problem with that. That's awkward. So, that's it. We got all the way to the last boss before losing to a Pursuit of Perfection, even with our best run. I think it was pretty respectable. We got pretty far in the end. I did, honestly, better than I thought I would be able to. I was worried that I wouldn't even be able to get that far. So, can you beat the Lab of Legends without attacking a single time?